Welcome to Meet the Management, powered by DecuSatio. My name is Anna, and today I'm joined by Talifhani from Universal Greening Organization, and we're talking about the demand for agriculture skills in South Africa. Talifhani, as a start, perhaps you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to work so closely in this space.
Thank you so much, Hannah. My name is Talifhani Tshitwamulomoni. I am the founder and the executive chair of the Universal Greening Organization. And I think my journey started when I was studying at the University of Venda, where I studied Bachelor of Environmental Science. When I entered there in 2013, I decided to say students were sitting in class and we were learning about environmental stuff, agriculture, tourism, but we were not doing practicals. So I thought it would be important that we start an organization that will help students to convert what they learn in class into practical. So that's when I was doing second year in 2014, I started the Universal Greening Organization. And three things that we wanted to achieve. One was to take students from class to the communities so that they can practice what they learn. Two, we wanted to ensure that students are having direct contact with the industry leaders through mentorships and training. So that's where we started a program where we would host conferences and invite industry experts to come and talk to us about what's happening in the sector, so that we are able to understand that as much as we're studying to get good marks, we must also align with the developments that are happening in the industry. And the third thing was mainly to ensure that we convert the research that students were doing into grassroots community development projects, because we had identified that students were studying, going to the community, they identify a problem and they formulate a research topic. When they finalize their research with their findings, they will put that in the library and not do anything with the recommendations from their research. So we thought it would be important that we convert the findings that students would have obviously come up with from their research into solving community problems. And that's when the organization grew. I remember at the University of Venda, the university gained a lot of attention. The organization gained a lot of attention to an extent where the vice chancellor of the university said this organization cannot be only for students of environmental science. It must be an organization that is for the university. And that's when he then invited us to go to the vice chancellor's office, where he then provided budget and everything. So we ended up doing our work with all students from the University of Venda. Fast forward, the organization now, it's at a space where we are now recognized by the United Nations as one of the observer organization under United Nations Environmental Program and under United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. And this now gives us space to work globally. We're no longer just focusing on South Africa or focusing on the University of Venda. Our work now spans across other regions as well. And our core programs, like I said, it's mainly to focus on issues of agriculture, but also to look at environmental sustainability and youth leadership in terms of pushing the green economy.
You touched on organizations, so you seem to have been able to secure partnerships with local and international funding partners. Perhaps can you please share a little bit about some of these organizations and why they have chosen to back you?
Like I said, we started doing this work as students. I remember I was 19 years old, and the space we were entering in was a space that was historically known to be done by people who are old, who have got a lot of experience, and who have got a lot of network as well. So our courage and resilience as young people and clear focus on what we're doing, I think that one made a lot of people to believe in us. And that's where maybe we started by University of Venda, where the vice chancellor actually said, I'm going to support your work from the university budget and ensure that your program grows outside the university. So when we got outside the university, we obviously started to interact with the corporates. And one of them is your Old Mutual. And Old Mutual supports our work mainly because we are doing programs that are in the green economy. We're focusing on supporting SMMEs and small farmers in training and inputs. We are working on restoring degraded landscape to address issues of climate change. And you'll understand that Old Mutual as is, they are also focusing on issues of contributing to reducing climate change due to the fact that it affects them in their core business of insurance. So they come and say, the work you're doing and the work we're doing comes together. It will be easy for us to give you a role to go and help us implement projects on the ground. Your international organizations like your United Nations, mainly it's because, like I said, we said as young people, we're not going to sit down. We are going to make sure that the solutions we want to see are developed by ourselves and are championed by ourselves. So when we started engaging with the United Nations back in 2023, we were invited actually to attend the Summit of the Future in New York. And that's when we presented the work we're doing. We showed them young people that we have trained from grassroots communities who are currently commercial farmers, who are producing produce that are being exported. And we also showed them some of the restoration work that we have done in the communities where we contributed and participated in the presidential 10 million trees program, where President Ramaphosa requested South Africa to plant 10 million trees as a way to contribute in curbing the climate change. And we presented this work that we were doing. And that's when the United Nations then see the responsibility or felt the responsibility to contribute in this work we're doing. I think it is mainly because they relate with the voices of young people who are not just young people, but who are pushing issues in the green economy that are historically known to be things that young people do not fully participate. So we have actually made issues of agriculture, land restoration, tourism, very interesting to young people. And that's why it becomes easy for all these partners to come forward and approach us to say, let's work together, let's support your work.
Speaking of young people and the subject of agriculture specifically, it does feel like many young people maybe won't be interested in agriculture or they don't see it as a viable career path. Can you maybe tell us about some of the roles that people don't always think about when considering agriculture as a career?
So agriculture, for me, I define it as the foundation of human spirit. And I call it foundation of human spirit mainly because everything starts from the land. All the professionals that we have today, they rely on the farmer for them to do whatever they are going to do. If we talk about drone pilots, if we talk about engineers, the first thing they need to do is to eat. And when they eat, they're eating food that comes from the farm that was then produced by a farm. But I think people have always spoke about farming in a very low level, and they see it as something that is done by uneducated people. They see it as something that is done by people who do not understand. There are key things that we need to do. Let me just give you a very basic examples. When we're talking about a farm, the first thing that you need to do as a farmer is to understand your climatic conditions. So you can have land, but if you do not understand climatic conditions of that particular space, you will farm wrong products, two, you will lose a lot. So you need someone who will then come from a climatology point of view, who will then analyze all the humidity, the temperature, and every single thing in that space. So you need someone who understands from meteorologist point of view, for an example, or climatologist, who will then come and analyze that for you to understand. But secondly, you then need to understand the soil type that you are using to plant your crops. So you will need researchers now who will come and take soils for soil sampling, and then go and analyze the soil. They will tell you the pH, the carbon, and all other aspects that the soil will have. So you will need some people who understand data analysis, but from a soil perspective, you need to analyze water, for an example, the water that you are using. How much does this water maybe have sulfur, for an example? So you need to also understand this. So you'll need a lot of technical research that is done by experts before you even start farming. But in the process of farming itself, you also need to understand a whole lot of other aspects that involves technology. Because if you are to say you want to farm products that are good for market, that are not maybe penetrated by insects, You will then need to understand what type of technology do we use to preserve or to protect our crops. There is now farmers who are using your greenhouse gases that are fully controlled, which means they control the amount of sunlight the products get. They control the amount of almost every single thing to ensure that the produce is of great quality that will meet market standard. So I'm saying when we talk about agriculture, the day you receive or you eat spinach, there is a whole lot of science that has been involved in producing that spinach. So the most important person in farming space is not the farmer himself, but is the support staff that he has who helps him to get a high quality product. And these staffs needs to sit down, open their computer, analyze data, and be able to then present the results to say, based on the climatic condition, you can be able to produce crop 1, 2, 3, based on the soil type, based on the water that you have. These are the resources or produce you can be able to produce in this farm. And that alone says to me, a farming business, it's not only agriculture. It also talks to the value chain. When the produce have been prepared, they need to be processed. So you then need to talk about agro-processing, where we take the tomatoes that have been produced by the farm, put them in the factory for processing. You can do a lot of things like paste, but after that, you need to transport them to the market, right? So you then include transportation, you need to include marketing, you need to include branding for it to get to the market. So agriculture can be the backbone of the economy because it caters for all the sectors. It needs the guys who understand technology. It needs the guys who understand food science. It needs the guys who understand marketing, transportation. Every single sector can have meaning in the agricultural space. And that's why I feel like we're not giving it fair attention. We're looking at it, undermine it, mainly because we see the farmers wearing gumboots, looking dirty. But that is one aspect of farming. There is a whole lot of value chain. There is a whole lot of technical understanding that is required for you to produce one tomato that can feed the nation.
Just to end off, if we had to make you Minister of Agriculture for a day, what is some of the areas that you would focus on to build a more robust agri-economy in South Africa?
The first thing I'm going to do as the Minister of Agriculture is to ensure that we streamline agriculture in all primary school education. So, and the idea is we want young people to start understanding the basic, which is where the food comes from. Because if as a country we are not able to produce our own food, it means we become a consumer state. And if we become a consumer state, it means a lot of resources are being invested in us consuming. So we need to change that and say young people from early ages, they need to understand that carrots does not come from Woolworth. It comes from the ground. And if you are able to teach them that, it means they are going to produce their own carrots. And once they produce their own carrots, there are a lot of things that you are going to solve by that. One is the food that people are eating now. Majority of them, it's modified food, which means the level of nutrients that are in this food, it's questionable. And you'll understand people are doing that because the population is growing, so they need to feed the nation. That compromises their health, which means at the end of the day, you will end up increasing the number of people who are getting medical attention because they're eating modified food, which means your health system is going to be burdened. But if you now teach young kids to do their own food at home, backyard gardens, they are going to have food that is nutritional, which means they are going to be healthy. They are going to reduce, you're going to reduce the number of people who go to hospital for health. And then you reduce the number of bill or health care funding because you reduce on, you put it on that. So there are a lot of things that comes as a byproduct of having a nation that can produce for themselves, that can produce healthy food for themselves. So the first thing for me is to ensure that every person understand that food comes from the ground. And before you become an engineer, before you become a pilot, first thing you need to do is to eat. And the food that you eat, you need to be a responsible consumer who understand where the food comes from and who can also produce in their own capacity. And that's what the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Talifhani Tshitwamulomoni, will do. And thank you so much for the time. And I really appreciate this. I want to invite everyone to look at agriculture as the core, as the basics. That's where things start. The land. Let's maximize the land. Let's ensure that the land becomes productive, because at the end of the day, every single thing starts from the land.
Thank you so much for the insightful conversation, Talifhani. It's been great having you on Meet the Management. And that's it for this conversation on Meet the Management. You can find more interviews with business leaders at meetthemanagement.com.